Hi everyone, Queeveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to take a look at a few eclipses that challenge the eclipse of the century that we will be getting next year in terms of duration, in terms of the length of the eclipse. So here we are, looking back to the year 743 BC or 743 BCE, whichever term you prefer. And even from here in Ireland, we can see that the new moon is almost in front of the sun. So this eclipse is a historically very, very long eclipse. We'll take a look at its maximum duration very soon. But as we can see here from the dates, this eclipse isn't this century. So our eclipse of the century, the very long eclipse coming up next year in 2027, is still at least one of the best eclipses we're going to get this century. This eclipse, based on the records I have been able to see, was longer. It had a longer duration. But this particular solar eclipse, I don't believe was visible from here in Ireland. So we can go through a little bit of time here just to see, and we can see that the moon is completely missing the sun. So we're definitely not getting this eclipse from here in Ireland. According to the records I could find, this eclipse was best visible from just off the coast of the Horn of Africa, just off the coast of Somalia, around here. And again, we're quite close to the equator here. We're quite close to the sub-solar point, and we're back in July. The eclipse that's coming up this year is going to be happening in August. So even though we are going to be close to our aphelion, close to our furthest position from the sun, this eclipse occurred when the Earth was even closer to aphelion, even closer to our furthest position from the sun. And we'll be able to check in just a second. Oh, there we go. There is our totality. So I have managed to arrive at the correct location, which is always nice. We're still a few kilometers off, but that's really not too bad. We're here at 100% and our duration, 7 minutes and 21 seconds, very close to the absolute maximum that an eclipse can be. So we're going to zoom in and take a closer look. There's the moon perfectly covering the sun. In order to click on the moon, we're going to have to move it off the face of the sun. Again, here we go, and we can see our distance to the moon, 352,000 kilometers. Again, very, very close to the moon's perigee. So just like the very long eclipse, the eclipse of the century that is coming up this year, it's going to look particularly good because we're at our furthest position from the sun, which means the sun will appear its smallest in the sky. Not that we should ever look directly at the sun. And the moon is at its closest to us, so the moon will appear its largest in the sky. And we can see here 351 and a bit thousand kilometers away from us, even closer to its perigee. So these are the factors that line up to make these eclipses very, very long. And as we've been able to see, this eclipse period is at 7 minutes and 20 seconds. I wonder if that'll go up or down as we move around. It goes down to 19 and it goes up, I believe, to 21. There we go, 22, 23, 24. So we're getting 7 minutes and 24 seconds of darkness. 7.5 minutes of darkness nearly. So a whole minute longer than the eclipse of the century that we're getting this year. Of course, this eclipse was centuries ago, centuries and centuries ago. So even though it is longer than the eclipse of the century we're getting this year, this eclipse didn't happen this century. So we don't really have to worry about it. It's not better than the eclipse that we're getting. It is better than the eclipse we're getting next year and better than the eclipses we're getting this year. However, it can't be our eclipse of the century because it's not in our century. It was so long ago. And again, with this fantastic level of darkness right in the middle of the day, there's so much we can see. Sirius is very, very clear. We've got Orion very, very clear here. We're down in the southern hemisphere, so of course it does look a little bit upside down. We've got Mercury, we've got Venus, all of these things that we'd expect to see during an eclipse. This isn't the longest eclipse that I've been able to find. There is an even longer eclipse coming up in the far, far future, but there was already quite a long eclipse this century. So we are still going into the past here, but not very far, just back to 2009. And we're looking ahead to July 22nd. So again, still very, very, very close to our aphelion. And we can tell we're at the right date here because we can see the new moon almost in front of the sun. This time of year even though it's the hottest time of year in the northern hemisphere, it is the time of year when we're furthest from the sun. Earth's orbit is elliptical, so we do have our closest position at not visible from our current location. That's okay, I didn't expect it to be. We do have our closest and furthest positions to the sun, but the difference between our closest and furthest positions to the sun is so slight that the tilt of the Earth still has a much greater influence on how hot it is here on Earth. So of course, whenever the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, even if we are further from the sun then than we are in winter, it's still going to be that little bit hotter. So we are now over in the Pacific, just a little under Japan. We seem to be a little bit off. I was aiming for the island of Iwo Jima, which is the location where this eclipse is supposed to be at its best. But of course we might need to hop around a little bit to get it at its exact maximum, to get the exact totality. Now, I had some issues with this in previous videos as well, finding the exact right location. Having to hop around and mess with the latitude and longitude to make sure that we were in the exact right place. However, I do believe that there is another way. So what we're going to do is, if I can find it here, there are of course a lot of letters, we're going to take a look from the moon. Here we go, our moon. We're going to hop right over to here because this is the place that will be facing roughly towards the Earth, and we're going to have a look around for the Earth. There we go, and we're going to look and see where the shadow is. So here we are taking a look at the Earth. We can see the shadow of the eclipse. Now of course it's a little bit cloudy, so we're definitely above Australia here and under Japan. Just moving around, we can see the exact darkest part of the eclipse moving around there, getting quite large. So this is where we need to look. This is the path of the eclipse that we're trying to follow. I think around here is probably going to be quite good. So we'll hop back to the Earth and we'll try and get to exactly that location. Of course, if this doesn't work, then I will double check the exact latitude and longitude. We might need to go just a little bit lower down around here. Okay, let's take a look now and see if we are in a better position, hopefully, to see this eclipse. And really the reason we're looking at this eclipse is just to see the length of time that it says is its maximum. So of course we have the moon almost going around the sun here, covering part of it and then sliding off to the other side. So what we're going to do is use the actual latitude and longitude to go to exactly the right place. So it looks like I was a little bit off. We want 24.2 here and we want 144.1. So 144 degrees and 1 second, or 1 minute, and then 59.22 seconds. The seconds shouldn't matter too much. Seconds of latitude and longitude are quite small measurements, but here we go. There we go, there's our absolute maximum, and if we take a look down here, 6 minutes and 39 seconds. So it is only a matter of about 10 seconds. It's 10-15 seconds longer than the eclipse of the century. But this eclipse, back in 2009, that was this century. So even though 6 minutes of darkness, really almost 6.5 minutes of darkness, it is very impressive, and we have that coming up in 2027. Calling it the eclipse of the century may be a little bit of a misnomer, depending on how you judge the eclipses. Because this eclipse back in 2009, it absolutely had a longer duration. We can see that, and we can see that the moon is pretty much at its perigee, just lining up here. Yeah, 351 odd thousand kilometers away from us, and we're at the right time of year to be pretty much at our aphelion. So it's all lining up again to give us this very long eclipse, but in this case just a little bit longer. Now this eclipse, as I mentioned, it already happened. It happened back in 2009, and there wasn't as much fuss about it as we're seeing for the eclipse of the century that's happening next year in 2027. So many people are talking about the eclipse of the century that we haven't even heard that much about the total solar eclipse that's coming up this August, which is going to be visible from parts of Europe. But as we can see, this eclipse on its path was mainly over the Pacific, areas where there aren't as many people living. Whereas the eclipse that we're getting next year in 2027, its maximum is just going to be around here next to the Red Sea by Egypt, and that's going to be visible by a lot more people. So even though this eclipse just a few years ago was longer in duration, the eclipse that we're getting next year is going to be visible by more people. And it is only a difference of 10 seconds. So being strictly accurate about it, we've already had our longest eclipse of the century. But the best eclipse of the century, the eclipse that most people are going to enjoy, that is most likely to be the one coming up in 2027. So we've spent a little bit of time talking about these eclipses. I don't know if I'll have time to take a look at the even longer eclipse coming up in the future. So we're going to leave that one for another day. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you enjoyed this comparison of the lengths of the eclipses, seeing even longer eclipses than the eclipse of the century, which we covered in the last video. If you did enjoy this video, then please do like it. If you enjoy this kind of content, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you'd like to see some of this information written down, then you can check out my website, queevinscontent.ie. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.